In the quiet chambers of the mind, creativity is not summoned. It is remembered. It is the echo of a wisdom older than thought, a silent rhythm pulsing through the soul, inviting us to see not just what is, but what could be. Life does not offer us a script, it offers us space. And in that space, we are called not to control, but to collaborate with the unseen patterns that dance through time. The Stoics whispered of stillness not as escape, but as attunement, an invitation to listen deeply to the world's unfolding. For it is often in our setbacks, our detours, even our doubts, that the creative spirit reveals its most luminous insights. We are not isolated thinkers. We are threads in a divine tapestry, weaving and unwinding in perfect harmony with the cosmos. So listen closely. The next idea you seek may not be born from striving, but from surrendering to the music that was always playing through you. In the ever-turning carousel of modern life, where we are told to move faster, think quicker, and produce more, there is something quietly radical about doing nothing, about sitting still, about letting the hum of the world pass by while you remain unmoved, attentive only to the breath, the moment, and the subtle stirrings of your own awareness. We've been conditioned to believe that creativity must be loud, spontaneous, erratic, that it comes like a lightning strike, a burst of chaos that we must chase and capture before it vanishes. But the truth is far more gentle, far more sacred. The Stoics, those old philosophers with weathered eyes and calm hearts, knew something we often forget. They knew that stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the alignment of movement with meaning. It is not about shutting the world out, but letting it pass through you without resistance, like wind through an open field. From the stillness, the mind becomes clear, not cluttered. And in that clarity, the imagination has space to bloom. You see, a truly creative thinker does not force ideas into existence. They allow ideas to find them. And for that to happen, there must be silence. Not necessarily the absence of sound, but a deeper silence, the kind that exists between thoughts, beneath noise, within breath. A silence that hums with presence, a silence that says, I am here, I am listening. Most of us are never really listening, we're reacting. We're grasping at answers before we've even lived the questions. But imagine for a moment that your mind is a garden. Now, what happens if you keep digging, planting, pulling, watering all at once? Every second of the day, chaos. Nothing has time to take root. But if you step back, if you allow the soil to breathe, if you let the rain come in its own time, the growth happens. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed for it. This is the essence of Stoic stillness. It is the fertile ground of creativity. When you sit in silence, not passively, but consciously, you begin to notice things. The way light falls on the wall, the pattern of your thoughts, the rhythm of your heartbeat. These are not distractions. They are the architecture of awareness. And it is from this awareness that new ideas arise, not random, but relevant, not frantic, but full. Because what you are really doing is tuning yourself to something greater. You're syncing your inner world with the pulse of the universe itself. And here's the beautiful paradox. In doing nothing, you become most available to everything. In stillness, you hear the music that motion drowns out. You begin to sense the direction of your next step, not because you calculated it, but because you felt it. That intuitive knowing, that spark of vision, that creative impulse, it was always there. But it speaks in a voice too soft for a noisy mind. So, the next time you're desperate for inspiration, don't rush to fill the silence. Make space for it. Be still. Let the mind rest its weary limbs. Let the soul speak in symbols and images. Let the universe come to you, not as a stranger knocking loudly, but as a quiet friend returning home. And when it arrives, you will know, not because it shouts, but because it feels like remembering something you never truly forgot. The most profound ideas do not scream. They emerge gently when the world is quiet enough to let them breathe. There's something strangely liberating about realizing that you are not in control of the outcome. That no matter how finely you craft your plans or how tightly you hold your vision, life has its own rhythm, and it does not ask for your permission to dance. The Stoics understood this well. They didn't believe in abandoning effort, but they knew that effort is only half the equation. The other half is surrender. Most people create with a clenched fist, gripping their ideas, clinging to the hope that what they make will be seen, praised, understood. They measure their creativity by applause, by metrics, by how well it aligns with the world's shifting definitions of success. But what if the real art is in the act itself? What if creativity, when divorced from the need to control its reception becomes something far more powerful, something sacred. You see, when you detach from the outcome, you begin to create from a place that is much deeper than ego. You're no longer trying to prove something. You're trying to express something, something timeless, something that feels as though it didn't come from you, but through you. And that distinction changes everything. Because the moment you surrender the need for validation, your work becomes an offering, not a transaction, not a means to an end, but a gift freely given to the unfolding mystery of life. The Stoics called this alignment with nature, with the logos. That deeper intelligence that runs through all things. To create in harmony with it is not to dominate your environment, but to participate in it. You become a conduit rather than a commander, a listener rather than a director. And in that space of humility, creativity flows freely. It is not forced, it is allowed. Think of a river. It doesn't strain to move forward. It doesn't worry about whether the sea will approve of its path. It simply follows the contours of the land, guided by gravity, by trust, by the invisible hand of the earth. And in doing so, it carves canyons, nourishes fields, sustains life. That is what happens when we create without attachment. We flow, we nourish, we become part of something vast and meaningful. But the ego resists this. It wants to be remembered. It wants to be applauded. It says this must succeed, or else it was wasted. Yet how can a single act of authentic expression ever be wasted? Even if no one sees it, even if no one understands, if it brought you closer to your truth, if it let your soul breathe for a moment, then it was enough. The Stoics would ask, is your virtue in the act itself or in the reaction it receives? And the answer, of course, lies in the freedom of detachment. There's a strange irony in all of this. The less you try to be profound, the more profound your work becomes. The less you seek attention, the more authentic your presence feels. People don't resonate with perfection. They resonate with truth. And truth needs space to move, to shift, to become. It can't bloom in the soil of tight expectations, so release the grip. Create not for the outcome, but because something inside you longs to be seen, even if only by yourself. Paint as though no one will hang your canvas. Write as if the words are prayers. Speak as though your voice is simply echoing what the universe already knows. When you align your creative energy with your purpose, not your plans, you begin to move in harmony with life itself. And there is no force more enduring, more graceful than a soul in tune with its own reason for being. True freedom begins the moment you no longer need your creation to be anything other than what it already is. It's a curious thing, isn't it? How we've been taught to fear obstacles, as though they are detours meant to ruin our plans rather than secret doors meant to deepen them. But if you look closely, if you really lean into the nature of resistance, you'll find that it often has more to teach you than ease ever could. The Stoics saw obstacles not as interruptions, but as invitations. Each difficulty, each moment of discomfort was a mirror, reflecting not what's wrong with the world, but what's still unfinished within us. Creativity is no different. We like to imagine that inspiration strikes when everything is perfect, when the mood is right, when the sky is clear and the world cooperates. But that is rarely how it happens. More often, our greatest ideas arise in tension, in longing, in the quiet ache of not knowing. And this is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. The soul, like the muscle, grows not in comfort but through resistance. Think about a sculptor facing a block of marble. From a certain perspective, it's just a heavy, unyielding mass, but to the creative eye, it's full of potential. The very thing that seems to stand in the way is the way. And so it is with our lives. That failure you're still haunted by, that closed door, that heartbreak or humiliation, they are not accidents. They're raw material. They are shaping you, inviting you to carve something honest from the weight you carry. The Stoics believe that our power lies not in changing the world around us, but in choosing how we respond to it. This is a deeply creative act, because to reinterpret a problem as a possibility requires vision, imagination, courage. You begin to ask not, why did this happen to me, but what can this become through me? And suddenly, you're no longer a victim of the story. You're its author. What we call adversity, nature often calls evolution. And when you begin to create from that place, your work holds a different weight. It's not just decoration or performance. It becomes medicine, not only for others, but for yourself. Because creativity, when it's rooted in your real experience, becomes a transmutation, a turning of pain into poetry. of loss into language, of fear into form. You're not escaping the world. You're digesting it, integrating it, and offering it back with reverence. And the beauty of this is that the more you practice it, the less you resist life as it is. You stop wishing things were easier. You begin to see that every twist in the path has meaning, not always visible at first, but always there. The moments that stretch you, that break you, that confuse you, they are not blocking your creativity. They are deepening it, making it more real, more felt, more human. And this is the kind of creativity the world truly needs. Not the polished illusion of perfection, but the honest expression of a soul that has lived, wept, wondered, and still dared to sing. There is a quiet power in those who can take the broken pieces and turn them into something whole, not despite the cracks, but because of them. So the next time you find yourself face to face with resistance, don't curse it, don't run from it, sit with it, ask what it's trying to shape in you. Remember that the stone does not resist the sculptor's hand. It becomes something beautiful because of it. The most radiant works of art are not born from ease, but from the soul's decision to turn its wounds into windows. There is a rhythm to life that does not begin with us, nor end with us, and yet we are not separate from it. We are woven into its current, each of us a thread in a vast tapestry that has no edge, no final shape. And this rhythm, the ancient pulse that guides the stars, stirs the oceans, and nudges seeds from soil, is what the Stoics called the logos, a kind of divine order, an intelligent flow that underlies everything, even the silence between your thoughts. And to be truly creative, to be deeply original, is not to fight this rhythm, but to hear it, to harmonize with it. The modern world often tells you to forge your own path, to push against the grain, to bend the universe to your will. But creation, in its deepest sense, is not an act of dominance. It is an act of listening. Stoics never saw themselves as isolated thinkers pushing agendas. They saw themselves as participants in a grand unfolding. And so their wisdom invites us to soften our grip, to loosen our plans, and to create not from ambition, but from awareness. If you've ever felt the joy of being lost in a moment where the art seems to flow through you, where the melody writes itself, where words appear on the page like they've always been waiting, you've tasted this alignment. It's as if something far older than your personality has stepped forward and begun to speak. And that's no accident. That is what happens when you stop trying to be creative and instead begin to allow creativity. You step into the stream of the logos and you let it carry you. This doesn't mean abandoning effort. It means refining your attention. It means becoming so attuned to the present moment that you can feel the subtle pull of what wants to come into being through you. Sometimes that will feel effortless. Other times it will feel like standing in the dark with only your breath and a whisper of instinct. But if you trust it, if you let go of needing to know exactly where it's leading, you'll begin to notice the design beneath the chaos. See, there's an intelligence to this universe that is not loud, but exact, not obvious, but intimate. And it does not shout its truths. It suggests them. It nudges. It echoes. It repeats the same lessons through different forms until you finally begin to recognize the pattern. Creativity is one of its languages. It's how the cosmos dances with itself through you, painting, writing, dreaming, building, not because it must, but because it can, because expression is its nature. The Stoics would remind us that this alignment is not just for artists, poets, or philosophers. It's for anyone who seeks to live well, because to live well is itself a creative act. And every gesture, every decision, every quiet moment of awareness becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. When you're in tune with the logos, your actions cease to be reactive. Become responses, measured, intentional, and filled with meaning. You're no longer chasing inspiration, you're walking with it. And perhaps that's the real secret. Not that we must create something extraordinary, but that we must become the kind of vessel through which the extraordinary can pass. Empty of ego, full of wonder. Quiet enough to hear what the world is asking us to express. Steady enough to bring it into form with reverence. So if you wish to be a creative thinker, don't just sharpen your mind, soften your heart. Learn to listen not only with your ears, but with your entire being. And remember that the most original ideas are often the ones that sound most familiar, because they've been whispering to you all along. When you begin to move in harmony with a deeper current, your life itself becomes a kind of poetry, written not by you, but through you.